Hi everybody. Today seems like a good day for some Qi Gong where we're holding acupressure notches. I think of them as different notches in the body that are like switchboards and they connect up different points. So the one for today is for the immune system as well as for the fight, flight, fright sympathetic nervous system and switching that into parasympathetic, which is more about being calm and focused at the same time. So let's get started. The first one is going to be in the notch right at the clavicle. And we're just going to gently put our one hand there. The other thumb goes in the notch that's kind of in the center underneath the chin. You kind of will feel like a little subtle notch there. And the fingers will just rest on the chin. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And just feel the self-nurturing that you're doing right now. Feel happy that you are taking care of yourself. And now the top fingers, the thumb stays where it is, and the middle finger just goes right behind the ear in the notch there where the ear and the jaw meet. And the other fingers can just rest on your face. And go ahead and breathe again. Feel the belly expanding a little bit on the inhale and then goes up to the chest and into the head, and then exhale deeply. Tune into the connection that these three spots are making with each other. One more breath. And then we'll switch sides. This hand is going to be at the clavicle. This thumb will be right underneath. And then the fingers rest on the chin. Check your posture. Just to feel your heart lifted. And now, take that middle finger right behind where the jaw and the ear lobe meet. There's a little indentation there, a little notch. And then rest the rest of your fingers and continue breathing. When we have a reaction like fight, flight, or freeze, we are in our autonomic nervous system that's called the sympathetic, which means we're reactive. And then when we come into the parasympathetic, we can respond. This helps us bring us into that responsive mode where we can be centered, peaceful, and focused. And one more deep breath. And exhale and relax. The Yoga Way to Radiance, how to follow your inner guidance and nurture children to do the same. So I'm going to read the introduction so you can get a feel for the book and some of my stories. During the late 1980s and after a decade of wanting to have a child, my husband Kartar and I sought guidance from our spiritual teacher, Yogi Bhajan, a fiercely passionate and compassionate yoga master from India, whose vision of an enlightened humanity had led him west to share his knowledge. In dealing with strong emotions that were catalyzed by our deep longing, we had been counseled over the years to do particular meditations or relax and let it come to us. One personal letter that I received from Yogi Bhajan simply said, "Love God." I took that to mean relax and accept, and in the accepting, something good could happen. But time moved on and there was still no child. And for me, this translated into anxiety at best and deep pain at worst. The day came for our meeting with Yogi Bhajan. I remember crowds of people around us on every side as we waited for our turn to have an audience with him. Kartar and I sat at the foot of the beautifully decorated platform in equally majestic presence of the teacher. With as much presence as we could muster, we asked for his help. He looked directly into my eyes with a piercing gaze that entered into my soul. It seemed that gaze held for at least a minute. He spoke one sentence only. "Why do you want to have a child?" I don't remember if I even answered him. I was acutely aware that it wasn't a question meant to be answered or have a dialogue about. He was giving me a koan, a puzzle that had no real answer because it was meant to enlighten. It shook me on the spot. I felt in his gaze and in his words a timeless idea that was just out of reach, a key to my hope and my misery. Personal self, greater self. I went home with that moment echoing in my insides. I was shaken in a way that could only be handled through deep meditation and contemplative inquiry through journaling. As his question resounded in my mind and heart, I felt the emptiness of each of my answers. Even though to the normal human world, my answers seemed sensible, logical, and natural. I want to have a child to love. I want to have the happiness of being a mother. I want the deep satisfaction of having a child who came from my husband's and my deep connection to each other and to the spiritual path. I want to bring in a child who will help bring this world into an age of peace and harmony. But now, my teacher's gaze and his powerful words awakened the soul within me. Somehow his words had touched the depth of my inner being, which then seemed to stand before me in response to my litany of beliefs. There was an instant knowing of the place, the edge, where each of these truths that I had believed showed themselves to be untrue. Each reason that I presented was undone by an immediate sense of knowing from the soul level. Me as personal self. I want to love. I want a child to love. I want the happiness of being a mother. Me as greater self. You know your happiness doesn't depend on anything. And if you think it depends on being a mother, you'll end up relying on that child for your fulfillment. Not a good reason to bring in a child. And so it went. The overall feeling of the internal conversation I was having became something like this. We both know the limitations of this way of thinking. It's a nice story, but it's still a story. And can you understand how that story is a source of misery? Healthy attachment. All the wise sages throughout time have talked about non-attachment as being the key to happiness. I don't believe they are trying to say that you shouldn't adore, love, and nurture your children, but I do believe they are saying that if you base your emotional satisfaction and your connection to spirit on your relationship with anyone, including your children, You will most likely experience pain when they disappoint you, because they are not born to serve anyone but their own spirit, as are you. When we try to derive our well-being and satisfaction from our children or anyone else, it ends up being an unhealthy attachment, since no person other than ourselves can be our own source of happiness and fulfillment. I believe Yogi Bhajan's potent question was helping me to come to that conclusion through my own power of insight. Many years after this period of time, I came across Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. One of the 4 questions in her work echoed exactly the voice of my greater authentic self in saying, who would I be without that thought? Without the thought that I should have a child, that I should be a mother, that it would ruin my idea of how my life should be if I weren't one. Without those thoughts, I felt the first stirrings of freedom from inner pressure to have something I didn't have. For the first time in a long time, a sense of peacefulness began to settle around me. It was as if the corner of a large lead blanket had been lifted from my mind and heart. And so it was temporarily. Then the anxiety would return, but less often and less powerfully. Many months went by, and the one simple, unanswerable question dominated my world. Yet through deep meditation and authentic inquiry, what at first seemed like a ghost that haunted me day and night became increasingly more corporeal, until the ghost, my greater self, became myself. Gradually and without fanfare, I felt a surrendering into the understanding that there is no really good reason. It will be or it will not be. There was relief, punctuated by panic at times, but still relief, from allowing things to be steered into existence or not by the unknown hand of the universe. More years passed, and more changes and internal growth helped to prepare me at age 41, and after 14 years of marriage, to mother a very special son. The experience of deep inquiry into what it meant to be a parent was the first foot forward on the path of parenting, a path that never ends but continues to shift and evolve. We find that we are born together, parent and child, and we are always in the process of becoming. An invitation to yourself. Through the pages of this book, I invite you to make friends with yourself and your child and step into a radiant flow of life. Here, we'll create space to explore a new vision of our relationship with these bright souls that we call children. The words, images, and personal stories in this book are designed to help you step out of the struggle, shrug off the I shoulds, and breathe deeply again. Through the intimacy of soul talk, I will speak to the you who knows, the radiant, authentic you, the you with a capital Y. Once you connect with you, it will be easier for your children to match that space of connection. Because you see, they have an advantage. They haven't yet unlearned what they came here knowing, that they are powerful, radiant beings made of the same stuff as the source they came from. For now, get into the spirit by feeling the happy anticipation of what is to come, a tender-hearted spaciousness filled with rich, deep, joyful, ever-evolving life for you and your children. In yoga, there's a greeting, namaste, which translates as the light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. This is the place where we start our journey together. The underlying theme of every chapter in this book is centered on the idea of honoring, because no matter what idea or skill we are focusing on, we will always be honoring our authentic selves and the authentic beings we call children. My journey toward my true self. Like many people, I grew up without a real sense of knowing what honoring felt like, or even what it really was. This was nobody's fault. My family did the best they could based on what they knew about life. They just didn't have helpful tools like yoga or understand that it was possible to live a happier, more authentic life, so they couldn't teach me how to do what they didn't know. It led to some challenges, something we all can relate to. But what I took away from my experience was this. If I can turn my life around to be able to live more as my true happy self and honor that self in others, then I know that you can do it as well. The stories of our lives are often long and complicated, so I want to share with you the short version of my journey toward my true self. Because I've been immersed in the world of children and yoga for 40 years, it may appear to you that my life has always been about children. This is not true. For the first 25 years of my life, it was about me, specifically who I was in relation to others and who I was on the inside when no one else was around. There was a distinct difference between the two, and I spent many years trying to reconcile them. The inside me is what I now think of as my authentic self. Like a budding flower, my authentic self gradually blossomed over the first decades of my life, nurtured through the water and sun of yoga, meditation, and inner awareness. From the place where I now stand, I can see things more clearly. The strongest childhood memories I have are those in which I was consciously aware that through a challenging experience, I had the opportunity to understand the workings of the energy flow that we call life. I did not think of it in those terms then, but I sensed a deeper meaning, knowing that what I was thinking and feeling dictated how I acted. In turn, this had a direct impact on the outcome. Here's a simple example. When I was a young teen, I enjoyed floating face down in my family's small above-the-ground backyard pool. I found it relaxing. It felt like my body didn't exist. One of my favorite things to do was to see how long I could hold my breath as I floated, and I loved to count the seconds in my mind. I recall a particular time when I was aware of a pressurized feeling that indicated I need to take a breath. I heard the thought, I can't hold it any longer. And then there was another part of me, one who had a bigger perspective, saying, but you held it through that thought. And if you held it through that thought, then you can hold it through another. With a feeling of amazement for my own inner wisdom, I emerged from the water for a breath, only when I absolutely knew it was time. In this story, I was clearly connected to my authenticity and received the confirmation that things work out for me. Then there were the countless other times, those moments when I was in the mode of learning by trial and error. Today, just like yesterday, I'm so grateful that I have been able to recognize that in every challenge there's a gift, and the bigger the challenge, the bigger the gift. I was lucky enough to be a young adult in the early 1970s. With a peace and love attitude of my generation, coupled with my abiding focus on how life works from the inside, I felt I had ended up where I was meant to be. During my college years, I was drawn to Eastern spiritual philosophy and practice. And as a result, 4 well-spent years passed with me sitting daily on my yoga blanket, practicing postures and meditations. This practice awakened my senses and helped guide me to understand what was true and right for me and how to honor that feeling in myself in others. As you can imagine, this was so liberating. Everything just made a bit more sense to my logical mind as well as in the way I felt internally. In 1976, I was introduced to Kundalini Yoga, which is often called the quick results yoga, because many people experience an immediate and ongoing rise in their ability to connect with their authentic self. I remember my first class and the way I felt my body becoming an instrument for moving internal energy toward enlightenment. I had the distinct feeling that my 4 years of solitary yoga practice had allowed me to graduate into the transformative experience of Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan, who brought this yoga tradition from India to North America in 1968. In the early days of yoga in the Western culture, it was often a path you took, not a class you took. The yogic lifestyle was a way of living, complete with healthy plant-based diet, early morning practice, mindful communication between yourself and others, and an opportunity to live your yoga in every passing moment. During this time, spiritual communities called ashrams sprouted up across the nation and internationally as a way to support the yogic lifestyle. This was where I met my soon-to-be husband, Kartar, in the yoga ashram, where we recognized that we were and are kindred souls, and we married in 1977. After the adult morning practice in our community, everyone took turns leading the children's version of morning yoga. To my surprise and delight, I found that I had a real knack for creating playful yoga stories and sharing yogic understandings in ways that children could relate to. One special experience led to another, and soon I was sharing my newfound love for children and yoga in the Montessori school that the children attended. My love for these children and how I could help them start their beautiful lives more authentically kept growing. Soon I knew that my calling was to become a certified Montessori teacher. In 1982, I started my own school, weaving yoga, meditation, guided relaxation, and conscious communication skills into the children's daily routine. I was constantly amazed at these small, brilliant beings that were called children. I would teach them something and felt like I was the one learning. Today, I can look back at that 10-year time period and recognize a subtle sense of taking an unspoken sacred vow to be a champion for children by becoming one who helps them maintain their connection to their authentic selves. Besides running the school during the 1980s, Kartar and I had 2 children come to live with us, each for 3 years. It seemed that within the nationwide Kundalini yoga communities, Kartar and I had gotten a reputation as being a good resource for parents whose children were extremely challenging. We foster parented a 3-year-old girl who had screaming fits for hours at a time. Her mother moved to our community to learn from us and gradually reclaimed the parenting role. Our next child was a 4-year-old boy who was hyperactive. The label ADD, ADHD was not commonplace in those days. He had anger issues and was in great need of a father figure to look up to, which he found in Kartar. These 2 parenting experiences heightened my awareness of how the child's issues and the adult's issues were completely intertwined. Whether the adult was a natural parent or not, I was grateful to know this and understand its importance. The real importance is in the realization that the intricate interplay that takes place between a child and an adult happens, not just with parents, but also with relatives, caregivers, teachers, and therapists. Having parenting experience was comforting because in 1991, Kartar and I were overjoyed to become parents to a child, a son named Ramdas. While he was young, I began specializing in teaching children's yoga and very quickly had several schools and daycare centers that I traveled to each week, teaching upwards of 500 children between the ages of 3 and 10. Parents and teachers were very responsive to what they saw from the children after these classes, and as a result, many people asked me to write a children's yoga book so they could continue to do yoga at home. This was the inspiration behind my first book, Fly Like a Butterfly, Yoga for Children, which was quickly followed by 4 more books, another one for children, and 3 adult yoga books. To put it in Montessori terms, I was in a sensitive period for writing for about 5 years, wanting to get all these incredible insights and yoga tools that I had become aware of down on paper. As the authoring period faded, I felt an unmistakable calling from my heart. Someone once said that the child is the root of the heart. Well, I could feel the root of my heart telling me to return to the work with children and those who cared for them. As a result, in 1999, I founded a children's yoga training program, one of the very first in the world, called Radiant Child Yoga, with a humble beginning of teaching a few parents and teachers with a simple manual and yoga book. The training has expanded considerably over the years to include tens of thousands of professionals as well as parents. During these sessions, participants receive a plethora of materials, including DVDs, CDs, and books, to help them start out strong on their journey. Honestly, it's an honor to help adults find ways to help little beings grow up into people who are connected with their authentic selves. What a blessing for the future of our world. I've also learned so much from the various creative ways my students are working with children. You will hear from some of them throughout the pages of this book. Through this amazing effort, a joint venture of instructor and participant, Radiant Child Yoga became a Yoga Alliance accredited training school in 2009 at the 95 and 200 hour levels. The Yoga Way to Radiance. True yoga from the inside out. I've come to realize that most people have not had early life training in how to be aware of themselves as energy beings with their own bona fide inner guidance. As I said earlier, neither did I, not until I began deeply exploring the idea that how we feel and what we think inform what we experience. This is when I began having very clear experiences and manifestations of where our power resides, and that is in our ability to truly know ourselves. Many people find that yoga, including meditation and mindfulness, is one of the best ways to experience themselves as the powerful, authentic beings that they are. So we'll be using these holistic tools throughout the book. I hope you will think of yoga as more than just a system to help you relax and release anxiety or tone your body, but also as a way of experiencing the oneness of everything, of ourselves as body, mind, and spirit, and of our relationship with others, including our children. The deeper purpose of this book can be distilled into a few words: to learn how to feel, trust, and follow your own inner guidance and nurture children to do the same. This innate inner knowing is something we all are born with. Children are more easily able to live in their authentic selves since they haven't yet unlearned their natural connection to the inner guidance, making them wonderful reminders that they are teachers to us just as much as we are teachers to them. Dedicated to all who love children. This may seem like a parenting book, but it is not solely for parents. The intention is to honor all the relationships that we have with children, so the ideas and experiences in the Yoga Way to Radiance are also relevant for teachers, therapists, and professionals who work with children. More than half of the tens of thousands of people I've worked with in my training program have been educators, therapists, and caregivers. In using these yoga tools and insights, they have experienced remarkable positive changes in the children they work with and in their interactions with them. Anytime you align with your authentic self and honor your unique expression, you will naturally know how to be present in situations that arise with children. This connection is your foundation. It is a touchstone for your relationship with children. I'll give you stories, insights, tips, and tools along the way to help you recognize moments of opportunity to positively impact children. Also, there are many wonderfully effective books available that provide words and skills to deal with behavior. You will find a list of them in the resource section of this book, should you care to draw from them. And so, friends, as we embark on this exciting journey, living from our inner place of truth for our own benefit as well as the benefit of our children, I bow to you again with Namaste. and a reminder that the journey once started never ends. But that's the good news. There's always more to learn about being authentic, being the light, and honoring ourselves and everyone else. On our journey, the child shines the light to show us the way home.